everyone. I am Azza El Kholy. Thank you, Tanya, for the introduction. As you can see, my basic training is far from politics and the social sciences in general. However, let me start by telling you a personal story, and that is, when I finished my high school certificate, my dream was to study political science. But then at the time, the only option I had was to go to travel from Alexandria, I live in Alexandria, and go to Cairo, to the American University, or to Cairo University to study political science. And my parents were not very happy about that, and so I ended up not going and studying English instead. Now I must say I did not regret that one bit. However, time flew, and eventually I came to the point where I have to do that for a living now. So I started, working in that area, and so I find that I have been quite lucky in finally, after, and here I'm, letting out my age, half a century of my life, doing what I really wanted to do at the beginning. So I think that's really a blessing. Now the thing I want to do this morning is the following. Here I have the written paper with a lot of details, which I will not be able to read out because this is going to be too boring, and we don't want a boring session. And here I have a presentation that has the outlines. So what I'll do is I'm going to start talking and perhaps refer back to some details here, but also I would like to ask you to choose right now one of two options. If you would like me to stop at any point as I speak, and you just raise your hand and we can start discussing things, or if you would like me to finish one chunk and then stop for 5 or 10 minutes so we can discuss it and then move on. So it's all entirely up to you. So would you prefer option A or option B? How many would like to go for option A to stop me as I speak and ask? You'd rather have B. Okay, good. Okay. Now, okay. I mean, obviously, who would rather have B then? Okay, great. That's what it is. Okay. Now, I'm going to start by first saying that, again, this is a very personal perspective. This is my reading. This is my view. And the fact that I'm saying it's a personal perspective is because, actually, I am not a policymaker. No matter how hard I try, nobody will listen to you. But you can have a vision, and you can impart that vision. And this is what we try to do at the center. As you can see, the title says, Egypt, what, where, when, and how. Basically, what I'm going to talk about today is, where should Egypt be going? When should that happen? And what are the things that we should do to achieve our goal of reaching a point where we sort of sail peacefully through the transformational period, okay, and reach the state of, let's say, not ideal, but the concept or the status of real freedom and democracy. But first, before I start, I would like to talk about the Egyptian people, because I'm sure many of you don't know who those people are and what made them take to the streets on the 25th of January. In general, Egyptians are and that was in the past, are very peaceful people, okay? And they're very patient people, but they lost patience, okay? And the interesting thing is that they lost patience because of a lot of things. How did you get this to work? Okay. So as I said, how can we move through the process of democratic transformation? Where we should go, when to do that, how to achieve this goal. I'm also going to talk about inclusion and how to strengthen the mentality for constructive transformation. Okay, I'm going to talk initially about 3 major influences. But before that, I have to say that, as we all know, Egypt is a very, very ancient country. And the fact that it's there and has existed for so many years, tells us that the people who are living in this country have inevitably been influenced by, all the invaders, all the conquerors. They've accumulated a lot of cultures within their culture. This is number one. Number two, by virtue of its position, of its geographic position, Egypt has had a great impact on the region over the past years. So there is this, let's say, trait of interaction between cultures that exists in this country over the years. But I will talk basically about three important things that have influenced our country in the past 60 years. I will talk about landscape, and I will talk about religion, and I will talk about the socio-economic conditions. Now, Egypt has a landscape that allows for a variety of, let's say, population practices and behaviors, and also diverse job opportunities or occupations. Now, we have in Egypt, as in many countries, of course, we have the Nile Delta, where we have a very agrarian community. We have the Mediterranean and the Red Sea and the coastal areas, and we have the desert and the Bedouin nomadic lifestyle. Each of these places has a population that has different habits, a different occupation, different habits, and with the different habits, they also have different behavioral patterns. If we start with the Nile Delta, where we have the agrarian community, and that is really, Egypt is heavily populated around the Nile Delta. And so most of the population live around the Delta. And it's an agrarian community. An agrarian community is a community with its focal interest is stability. These are people who want a stable lifestyle because they have a cyclical kind of existence. They plant the land, they wait for the land to, to have the crops, and then they sell the crops, and so on and so forth. So they want a stable kind of life. It's also a very close community, and they are generally very conservative, quite religious, and at the end, they also are people who value the patriarch. They have a patriarchal culture. And that is very, very important, because those people finally, on the 25th of January, refused the patriarch, okay? Although this is something that has existed in their culture. Also, they are a society or a community that really believes and accepts gender inequity. It's okay for them to have gender inequity. It's fine. They believe in it. It's not something that they look at and are quite surprised that this is happening, or they object to it. No, it's part and parcel of their culture. Okay? Now, if we move on to the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, the coastal areas. The coastal areas are areas where people are more adaptable to change. Why? Because we have fishing communities, and we have trade centers, and there is an interaction, there has always been an interaction with other parts of the world. And so they are more adaptable to change. They can absorb other cultures, they accept the other. Okay? So this is the coastal community. And then we have the Bedouins, or the people who live in the desert. Now, the people who live in the desert are very closed communities, extremely conservative, okay? They believe in their traditional values very much, and their traditional values are their own traditional values. They have tribal affinities, they have a fear of strangers, they don't accept strangers, and the interesting thing is, particularly in Egypt, and that's in the Western Desert and also in the Sinai, the tribes there have their own traditional laws. They do not accept state laws. Okay? So they are initially at odds with the state. they have their own laws. Of course, it's again a patriarchal community. It again believes in gender inequity, and it is quite conservative, okay? So as you can see, there are commonalities, but there are also differences between the different groups in Egypt. But perhaps one thing that is extremely important, and that initially brought people together even before the revolution, is the fact that Egyptians have a very strong religious tradition. When I say a strong religious tradition, I'm not only talking about the Muslims. I'm also talking about the Christians in Egypt. Religion permeates our lives. Okay? In what way? Since a very long time, people believe that to be religious equals to be good. Okay? And because of that, they practice religion in the sense that many Christians and many Muslims go to the mosque or to church on a daily basis to pray. They don't go only for the Friday prayers or on Sundays. They go every day. So this is one thing. The other thing is our everyday language. Like I think most people in the Arab world is permeated by religious sentiment. Okay? And we always believe that everything is fated by God or by Allah, whatever happens to us. Okay? We have one of the most important things about Egyptian culture is the fact that we have a lot of holy shrines, okay? And going to visit these is part of the tradition. It's a very important thing to do. And in recent years, religion has also infiltrated our lives, even in our dress code, okay? So you find people, many women are increasingly becoming more veiled in the cities. People wear the niqab now, women wear the niqab, and men in recent years are beginning to wear the short galabeya, and of course growing beards, and the beards are getting longer, okay? And all that becomes part and parcel of the culture. So that is one thing that brings Egyptians together, in spite of the fact that they are different. Now, the thing that really made them sort of join hands, in spite of everything, is their anger and frustration because of the socioeconomic conditions in the country in the past 60 years.